in activating their own stem cells and supporting their cells to function better with this patented technology from Lifewave. I am joined today by my lovely, sweet co-host, my husband, Dr. Stan. Hey, baby. And before we continue, I'd like to invite David to share our disclaimer. David?
Thank you. All Lifewave products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent any diseases. If you have medical conditions, pregnant or nursing, or on medications, please consult with your physician first. All patching podcasts are not intended or for educational purposes only.
Great. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Now, I just want to go ahead and get started, guys. I am so excited to introduce Dawn LaChance to our meeting today. And my friend Susan shared patches with her a few months back. And, you know, Sherry, Susan was so excited for you to be here today. And she said, you know what? She said, I almost didn't go to the meeting where I met Sherry. And it just made me want to cry. Like, what if she had not gone to that meeting and met you? But introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, how many kids you have, and again, even though I've kind of spilled the beans, how you found the patch.
Okay, so my name is Sherry Tamburo, and I have two kids. One is 3, and one is almost 11. And I had met Susan at a business event that I actually wasn't going to go to either because I'm very much an introvert and I didn't know anybody, but I was trying to get my name out there for our invention that I created because of my son, Eli. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go. And so I met Susan there. She shared the patching just a little bit, and I ended up calling her, and I was going to talk about Kaba, our invention, with her. But instead, I said, I want to know what you're talking about with these patches. Do you think it will help my son?
And, you know, I just want to interject here, you know, that we can't recommend patches to children because there are no clinical trials. And if you know anything about David Schmidt and Lifewave, we're all about clinical studies and clinical trials. But it is a parent's prerogative, you know, to use it with your children. And I've heard David say, you know, that used to he didn't recommend it for children, but now he sees the need with a lot of needs that, you know, children have these days. And so Sherry decided to patch her son, Eli. So tell us a little bit about what was going on with Eli up to that point. I guess he was 10 years old.
Yep, he is 10 years old still. He'll be 11 in November. When he was born rare. A very rare disorder that wasn't detected because of a newborn screening getting lost. And so it came with lots of complications and setbacks. And he wasn't supposed to make it past 14 days old. He wasn't supposed to walk or talk. And it comes with a lot of different things that he deals with. I'm going to read it off so I don't miss anything. He has speech and language delays. Fine motor skills are lacking. Seizures. He's had a mini stroke. Toileting complication. He goes through 50 to 60 diapers in a week during the day. He goes to the bathroom every night in his pants, peeing and pooping, and so I have to give him a shower every morning. There is a lot of different memory loss. Every day is a new thing. If I teach him one thing one day, it's still new to him the next day. He has no awareness of stranger danger. Everyone is his best friend. There's no awareness of physical boundaries. He'll hug anybody he sees. He'll talk to anybody he sees. He just doesn't realize that not everybody wants to be hugged. Eli has been stuck around 4 years old mentally for the last 6 to 7 years. He hasn't got past kindergarten work in school. It's always new to him each year, no matter how we teach him. It's always new, and he doesn't retain it, which is super frustrating for him and for me because I'm his teacher. He has a hard time forming words and is very delayed in answering questions. So if you ask him a question, you have to wait 10 to 15, sometimes a minute, let it process, and then he will talk to you. So it's very hard when you're trying to parent somebody that you think is rebelling for different things, and he's not. He's just delayed in so many things, and every year he's stuck. And when we went to his doctor, he said, well, here's the scale of kids progressing, and it goes all the way up, and Eli is right here. And it's been flatlined for 6 years.
Wow. Wow. I know that is frustrating. It was frustrating for me just to homeschool an ADD kid. Well, tell me what happened and why you decided to start patching him, and what happened in that first week.
Yeah, so we started patching him, and in the first 5 days, he went from, I'm going to read this off too. The first 5 days, he went from 50 diapers in a week to 3 to 5 during the day.
Wow.
And then he was still wetting and pooping the bed every night at this point. And we're about 14 weeks in now. And within week 1, the full week, he had only had 5 bedwetting and 3 BMs at night. And he had only 3 diapers daytime in the entire week.
Wow.
He was about 50% less seizure activity. He wasn't turning white. He wasn't asking to take a nap. He was responding better. His focus was better. He could take one-step instruction, which sometimes he couldn't do most days, and you would have to help him remember his task every step. It was very frustrating for him and me because I wasn't sure if he was listening or just, being a kid in defiance. So,
right. And I'm sure you got excited that first week when you started seeing these changes.
Yeah, I run another business, and I'm inventing a product called Kaba. So I'm very busy and doing a lot of different things. So I told Susan and Dr. Dunn that I wasn't going to sell this. But day 5, I'm like, I can't. It's not only me sharing it. Eli is sharing his story. He patches people everywhere he goes. Aww. Have you heard about this? And he'll show them his sticker, he says. Aww. And they're like, what are you talking about? Family reunions we haven't been to in years. He patched 5 people last Friday. He was like sharing it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So it's really cool to see. In week 2, he had 5 days with no diapers in the daytime. Nighttime diapers, he had only 1 pee accident in his diaper 5 nights in a row. And then it says he could take 2-step instructions, fine motor skills, fingers. He could actually start moving his fingers and holding his fork better, unbuttoning his pants and putting his clothes on, which some days is a very big struggle for him. And I noticed vocal seizures were improving, and he wasn't turning white or asking to take naps. And that was only 2 weeks in.
Wow. That is amazing.
And then 3 weeks in, I have to share because every week has been different. He has now been able to shower himself almost all by himself, which has never happened. At this point in week 3, he was 90% seizure free, and he was taking 4-step instructions. I'm like, oh my goodness, I had 20 minutes extra in my morning, and I didn't know what to do with it because I always have to give him what to do, how to do, when to do it, every step of his day. And it's very exhausting, and I don't have a lot of time for myself. Between week 4 and week 8, we started weaning himself off of some seizure meds with the help of some doctors. And he started recognizing in boundaries, stranger danger, which I've taught him for 10 years now, and he doesn't know stranger danger. He doesn't even ask the hard questions. You don't have to offer him candy. He just goes and takes off with anybody. So it's very, very scary. But it's now sticking, and he's asking the harder questions. And it's very helpful. Then I know I don't have to worry about, he's outside playing right now, and I don't have to worry about him going in the street or something. If somebody were to pull over and ask him a question, could take off with him, no problem. And now I don't have to worry about that, which is good. And then we are in week 14, I think 15 now, but between 8 and 14 weeks, Eli is completely seizure-free, no medications, no holistic medications, clean and dry most days, all day, every day, and wearing big boy underwear. He is clean and dry 3 nights a week and gets up to go potty on his own in the middle of the night, which has never happened. He is mostly showering himself. I do have to make sure he's completely rinsed. He is writing his letters, his numbers, and some sentences and tracing, which he's not been able to do with his fingers, and remembering his ABCs. And now he is remembering every single thing that I've taught him in kindergarten. He'll bring things up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I taught you that for 5 years and you're finally grasping. This is so cool. He's like, Mom, look what I can do. He's even helping me out in the kitchen and setting the table by himself. He'll pour his sister a drink, which there's no way without spilling he would be able to do that by himself. And now I've turned around and he has everything done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like I said, this is life changing for us. He still does get overstimulated some days and needing some extra help, but I see that improving and getting easier for him every week that we're patching.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Sherry, this is just so amazing. I'm just sitting here, oh, teary, because I taught my children and I knew how frustrating it was. But, the fact that, he's getting up at night and going to potty at 10. I mean, most of us remember our little boys doing that when they were 2,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so awesome that this has made that much improvement.
This is Sharon Dietrich, and I'm with this wonderful company, and I love it, and I love how it's changed my life in just 6 months, 6 weeks actually. And because of that, we, when we know people that are broken or that have an injury or whatever, or have something going on, we reach out to them. And Deb is one of my friends that I reached out to. And Deb, are you there?
I'm here.
Unmute yourself. Great. Hi, Deb.
Hi,
Thank
Sharon.
you so much.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming in and telling us about your experiences. And if you could just start off by telling us who introduced you.
My wonderful Sharon introduced me.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been experiencing.
So I will be honest, and I'm over 50. In fact, I'm getting really close to 60. And I swear, once I hit 50, things started falling apart. And I realized about 4 years ago I had serious knee issues. And I've had knee surgery on my left knee twice in the last 3 years. And it was looking like I was going to have it again. The funny thing, I met Sharon, and she looked at me one day and said, she looked at me and she said, you're limping, right? And I went, oh, my knees are screaming because my right knee is also in pain. And she said, I got something for that. You need to try this. And bless her heart, she sent me some patches. And the first day I used the X39 and an Lifewave. And my knees were so swollen every day. All of a sudden my knee was not, especially my left knee was no longer swollen. In fact, I can see my kneecap today, which I haven't seen in probably 2 years. And I'm super active. I'm in property management, which keeps me running every single day. Plus I like to hike, and also I try to put in 3 to 5 miles a day, just because I want to keep my joints active and, ready to go at a moment's notice. And you can't, if you have pain, a lot of people sit around and don't do anything. So using these patches, I have reduced my knee pain by more than 50%, and I've only been on them for 2 weeks. It's really made a huge difference. So I'm super stoked, and I can't wait to see what it's like a month from now when I have even better results. The other thing I fight is I've got a thyroid issue, which really packs on the weight. And I think it's just gotten worse over the years. So I'm trying tell me what it is, Sharon.
SP6.
SP6, yep. Which has already curbed my appetite, which is kind of funny because I'm not real hungry anyhow, but I can tell that I'm not as hungry. I used to get hungry every 4 hours. I'm not getting as hungry. Which is great, especially on days when I'm sitting at home in my office like I did today, which is why we have the hair. So it's making a difference. And like I said, I've only been doing this for 2 weeks. So I cannot wait to see where I am a month from now.
That's awesome. And you talked to me about having high blood pressure and high cholesterol also.
Yes. So I've learned along the way that when you have thyroid issues, a lot of times you don't realize you have thyroid issues, but you may have high blood pressure and high cholesterol because when your thyroid's not working, it tends to throw those out of whack as well. And so about 4 years ago, no, probably longer than that, 4 years ago, I realized I had high blood pressure. So they put me on pills. And then before that, it was probably 10, 12 years ago, they discovered that I had high cholesterol, which my mother also has as well. And so I take a couple of pills every day, and I don't want to take pills anymore. I want them to be gone. And if I can do it with, patching instead of taking drugs, you'll make my whole life, because I don't want to take anything that I don't need to.
Tell us about the cyst on your knee.
Oh, God. Good thing you said that, Sharon. After I had my second surgery, which was last October, I had this bump that formed on the top of my knee. And originally the doctor said, oh, it'll just go away. It's just extra swelling. Well, it's actually a cyst. And in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed that it's actually going down, which I'm glad, because I don't know how they're going to get it off otherwise. It's just in a really weird location. But to see it actually go down, I mean, who would have thought that? And I'm hoping that it continues to go down some more.
Awesome. So it's fair to say that you also have a very high stress job.
Yes. So for me in property management, I worked for another company until about a month ago, and I was the company fixer, where I went into communities where people were getting shot at, threatened on a regular basis, had to deal with rats, serious building issues, people flying off the handle left, right, and sideways. So the stress in my job can be insurmountable. I mean, it's just crazy what you deal with. And right now, I'm like cool as a cucumber. It's just amazing. I don't worry about any of it anymore.
We just basically have to stop whatever I was doing, wait for a couple, have
only 2 weeks now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You have less stress, less dinner.
I'm right here.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Sharon.
I'm so glad you stepped up for me this way last second.
You're welcome. Glad I got here in time.
Bob, tell us about yourself.
Well, let's see. 63 years old, ex-athlete. Have lots of aches and pains, throughout my playing days and all that. I've had 3 knee surgeries. The last one was in 2002 on my left knee, which I've had operated on twice. Basically, all times it's been cartilage and removal of cartilage. So my left knee since 2002 has been bone on bone with lots of arthritis in it.
Tell me about your experience walking up hills. And
up hills is not
upstairs.
The problem. It's walking the downstairs, down hills. That's the major problem.
How are you walking? I'm hearing you had to walk sideways to get down the hills, and
it was an odd looking walk. Let's put it that way. In order to get down the hill, to which it was usually playing golf and everything, and my golfing buddies look at me like, "What are you doing?" And says, "I can't walk down the hill like this. Or I mean, straight. I got to walk this way because otherwise my knee just hurts way too much. Plus, I would get pains that would shoot up. If I twisted just wrong, I would get a pain that would shoot all the way up my body, and I would just basically have to stop whatever I was doing, wait for a couple minutes, and then I could do what I was going to do. And if I was sitting on my chair with my ottoman, I'd have to lift my leg up in order to put it on to the ottoman. Otherwise, it would hurt too much.
Wow. Okay, so now that you've been using, what patch have you been using?
The X39.
Okay. And how have you been feeling since you've been using it?
Day 2, I was playing golf again. I play golf once a month with my friends. On day 2 of using the patch, walking down a hill was no problem at all.
Wow.
I just, from having to do this weird walk to all of a sudden now I can walk down a hill. It's just like I couldn't believe it.
Wow. And how does your knee feel on a regular basis now? Does it feel like it's getting better?
Oh, yeah. It feels like it's getting much better. I don't have to lift it up to put on the ottoman, to rest my leg. I can just lift it up by itself, and it's no problem. Haven't had the pain shooting up my body since starting on the patches.
And how
And
long
I've
have you
only
been?
I've been on maybe 5 weeks.
That's awesome. So it's fair to say that since day 2 of you using only the X39, you are not walking funny down hills anymore.
No, I am not.
You are not getting shooting pains, and your knee is feeling better. You don't even have to lift it by your hands onto an ottoman anymore. You could do it on your own.
Correct.
That is awesome. So does it feel still like your bone on bone is still scraping, or does it feel like that's getting better?
I used to have pain 24/7. Don't have that at all anymore, really.
Wow, that is awesome.
And
I'm
I was
so excited to hear this.
very skeptical at first. You know, my middle name is Thomas, so yes, doubting Thomas. But I was just amazed after just the second day of having it on.
That's amazing. And the fact that we hear people like you with very bad knee problems coming out and saying, it took a little time, but here I am and I'm feeling a lot better. I'm looking forward to see how you're feeling in 6 months. And I'm looking forward to that doctor's visit to see what he says.
Well, he told me, doctor back in 2002, when he did the operation, said that in 5 years, he'd be replacing my knee. And I told him, no, I'll keep going what I'm doing. And it was deteriorating.
Wow, so this is awesome. I'm hoping that when you go back to that visit, you'll share with us again on what is going on to make you feel so much better.
I will do that.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you being here and sharing your story. And I'm going to
go on to the new stem cell goes.
It was 12 years ago. I was 53. I didn't even know what Parkinson's was. I had Parkinson's, and they said it's usually men get it in their 70s, and I didn't even know what it was. I was in shock. I had no idea what I was in for. The nurse didn't really explain it to me, the doctor, and so I went blindly, just kind of figuring my way through the process. I lost my appetite. I lost my ability to walk freely. I started having dyskinesia, which was a complete loss of body movement. I mean, I would be flailing all over the place like I was having an epileptic fit. At night, my legs would shake, my body would shake. I thought I was going to die. I mean, I really felt like I had lost control of everything. I was headed for a wheelchair. I mean, I've been on a cane and a walker. I mean, this has just been like 4 years ago, but I bought a walker with a footstool on it so that I could be pushed around. I was that bad. I'd have to go into exercise classes with my walker. I mean, it was really embarrassing. It was really hard to go through, and I really wanted to just crawl in a rabbit hole,
And how old were you when you got the first diagnosis?
53. I'm 66 now.
Okay.
And I thought there would be no, end to it. Nobody was giving any, like there's no cure. Everybody's different with the Parkinson's. Your meds are different, everything, and they're not discussing any cure.
Tell us about when you said you would go into freezes.
Oh, God. What
happened?
I was in San Francisco one day, and I was getting something done, and I walked across the street, and I got stuck in the middle of a one-way 6 lanes. I couldn't believe it. I was frightened. The cars just stopped. They didn't know what to do. Some guy came by and put me on his back, and so I got a piggyback across the street. I mean, that happened a lot. I had to quit my job, which I loved. I worked in Point Reyes, and I worked at an organic cotton shop, and I loved it. I was their merchandiser, and I had to quit because I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. It was just, it was so handicapping, so I would freeze and I would get the dyskinesia, and I was getting a wheelchair. I was picking out a wheelchair to end up my life in.
Wow. That diagnosis, and how long ago did you start using the X39, and tell us what happened?
I was talking with this woman, and we were on Nextdoor, and somehow the topic came up that I had Parkinson's, and she said, "Oh, I think I have something that will really do you right. And I said, what do you got? And I'm like, what do you got? You know, help me. And she said, I have these patches and X39. And she explained it. I said, bring them over. And she brought them over personally. And that was in the end of November, beginning of December. At the same time, I was told that I had to move, which I loved my house in Point Reyes, and I had to get another apartment or something, you know, somewhere to live, which was devastating in itself. I mean, Parkinson's, you can't handle stress. It just flips you out. It turns you into a flailing, you know, just crazy person. But with the patches, I had to move by December. And with the patches, I began them right away. I calmed down. I was able to pack my stuff up. I put it in my car and brought it to where I found a place. I'm living at my mom's house. I began walking, and I started walking a lot. And I still would use the wheelchair the walker. But now I'm walking without the walker. I'm doing a cane occasionally. I walk 2 miles a day around Nevada, California, and I'm like living my life again. I thought I had lost all my dreams. I didn't ever think I was going to travel again. I didn't think that I would be able to go to people's houses. I had to calculate if they had stairs or not. I mean,
but what are your dreams now?
My dreams are I can travel. I really see that I can go somewhere on my own. You know, I want to go to Greece really bad. I want to do what I do best, which is organizing and decorating homes. I mean, it seems like it's possible. I've got energy again. I'm happy, which I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I mean, it's just opened up my future, you know, completely.
So you don't get any of those freezes anymore?
No, I get a shuffle sometimes, but the freezing, I don't get frozen anymore. No.
Wow.
And the dyskinesia, I mean, I'm just nervous right now. I'm moving around a little bit, but I couldn't control my hands sometimes, you know, it was really bad.
Wow. What a marvelous story.
Thank you. I mean, my life has changed.
Thank you so much. And we have our first guest tonight is the beautiful Dr. Cashel Southwick. She is 44 years young, and she's a doctor of pharmacy, a functional health practitioner and consultant. And she was previously an infectious disease clinical pharmacist and a disease state manager. In addition to her doctorate, she studied biology and chemistry. She's an amazing mom of 3 cool kids, 17, 15, and 12. And she is so lucky to be married to her high school sweetheart. So, Cashel, thank you for joining us tonight, and we're just excited for you to share your wonderful testimony you were sharing with me, with your daughters, and all yourself, all the things you've learned about Lifewave. So just tell us your journey and who introduced you to these patches, and you know how things have been over for the past few months for you, since this has been such a life-changing thing for your family as well.
Yeah, it was a complete happy accident. Really, my good friend called to check on my daughter. My daughter had she was 11 last September, had a traumatic brain injury that resulted in a brain hemorrhage, and she was discharged from the hospital, and we were very blessed. It could have been a lot worse, and she went through hyperbaric oxygen. We did rehab. We did acupuncture. I've always been somewhat of a researchaholic, and so when traditional medicine kind of left us hanging, there wasn't a whole lot of things that they had to offer her. We kind of went out of the box, and she went back to school about part-time right before Christmas break and kind of did all the holiday parties, and then went back full-time in January. And her academics were struggling. And about that time, my husband and I said, oh my gosh, we have to do something else. And Dina called and said, hey, I've had just this miraculous response with my daughter, and she has a special needs daughter. And she said, if they can heal my daughter's brain, I think you should try them for your daughter's brain. And the researchaholic in me, started researching them. And that's probably my biggest regret, is I spent probably about 6 weeks digging into all of the clinical trials and reading the studies and listening to testimonial calls just like this one. And finally at the, I don't know, probably midpoint, my husband and I decided that it was something we had to at least give a try. So I had texted Dina and I said, I think I asked her, I said, well, how much is it anyway? And she kind of said, well, let's talk. And I thought, oh boy, that's never a good sign. And was anticipating that it being a lot more expensive than what it was. And so when she told me the price, I thought, oh shoot, if you would have told me that, I would have just jumped on board probably probably a month before. I probably would have at least read some of the clinical trials. But anyway, I thought before I experiment on my 11-year-old, I would put him on myself. So I have scoliosis in my back, and so I have struggled with some low back pain. I'm not a medicine taker, despite being a pharmacist. I don't like to take any kind of medication. I feel like my job is always to tell people all the side effects and the reasons why maybe they should be careful. And so I tend not to take a lot of medication. And so I was sitting at my desk doing my chart reviews and whatnot from home and having to sit with a TENS machine on because my back hurt so bad. And I wasn't getting relief from a chiropractor anymore. And, the funny thing is Dina asked if I needed anything. And I said, oh, no, I'm perfect. Actually, I don't have any problems. I don't have anything. And she's like, okay. And so I tried them for the first week, the X39 and the Aeon, and I put them on my low back. So the X39 on my spine and the Aeon kind of on my right loin and kind of right where you put your hand on your hip. And about the third day of wearing the patches, I had just a dramatic improvement in my level of pain. I just thought, am I feeling something? Like, am I losing my mind, or am I actually feeling something working in these patches? And by the end of the first week, I couldn't find a sore spot. I was kind of putting them right on the point of pain, and I really couldn't find a sore spot. And so at the end of the week, I kind of thought, well, maybe I'm going to stay on these too. So I did, and I started Elena on them. And so it was kind of an accident that I started the patches because I had no intention of spending $100 a month on myself. And so pretty much that's how I got started in them. And Dina told me a little bit about the business aspect of it. And I said, oh, no, that is not for me. I will not be doing the business part of it. I have no desire to do that. And she said, well, you just wait. When you get your miracle, you won't be able to help yourself and you'll have to share your story. And so here I am. I just started my basically 5th month of the patches. And I don't think I'll be going without them anytime soon. I've experimented on myself a little bit, and I can skip a day or two, even once in a while, 3 or 4. But boy, by that 5th day, I am reminded how bad I used to feel. So I don't like to skip days. I don't like to be inconsistent. It's one of the things I counsel people on is, hey, be consistent. Make sure that you're wearing them every single day as you're supposed to. Don't skip. You're not going to get the same results if you're not consistent. But some of my background is I live here in Arizona, and as a transplant Arizona person, I came from Michigan. I got valley fever really bad. I was one of the lucky or unlucky 1% that get a nodule. And so I had a valley fever nodule burst in my right lower lobe, and I ended up with a pretty decent size 1 centimeter calcification. My original nodule was 4.2 centimeters. So the nodule stays, it's kind of like a scar, or on an x-ray, it looks like a tumor in your lung. And that left me with some shortness of breath, difficulty, like sometimes with exercise-induced type asthma, very reactive lungs. So if I walk through cigarette smoke or even trick-or-treating and everybody with their fire pits out here in Arizona, I would cough and hack and wheeze for weeks after any kind of exposure to that. So, and with valley fever, you can't take any steroids. So it's kind of just left with scarred lungs, I guess. I also had low thyroid, so I took thyroid medicine. You know, being in my 40s, every year it seemed like the scale and I kind of had a more weighty relationship. Not that I've ever been a super heavy person, but just, you know, the scale kind of creeped up there. You know, I've always been active and exercise, but I just really just couldn't ever lose any weight. So I started patching, and I started with X39 and the Aeon on my back. And then we had that awesome kind of summer special where you got an SP6 for free. So I thought, well, I'm going to try it. And I started wearing the SP6, and probably about between a week and 10 days in, I kind of accidentally forgot my thyroid medicine. And I kind of, about a week after forgetting it for a week, I just decided, well, I haven't noticed that I wasn't taking it, so I stopped taking it. And I'm a numbers person. I'm very lab value oriented. And I went and got my blood work done about 8 weeks after being off the thyroid medicine. And my blood work was all better than it had been last summer. So that was a happy accident with the patches. And of course, my low back is feeling much better. I mean, I pretty much don't have any back pain unless I do something to deserve it. Other than that, I have no back pain. The other kind of cool thing is we were sitting around the campfire up north at our cabin, and my husband looked over at me and he goes, "You haven't been wheezing lately." And I was like, "Oh, actually, you're right. I haven't even been carrying my rescue inhaler. I don't wheeze anymore. I don't get short of breath. I exercise without any difficulty." And so that also has been kind of a happy accident. My daughter, the most amazing part, and probably the most, part that I'm the most thankful for, is that she wore the patches for about 2 months, so April and May, and we had gotten her state testing. Our school district does it, I think it's like the end of February, first part of March, right before spring break. And she was around 60%. She was struggling about 60% in all of her core subjects. And that's unusual. She was kind of an all-A student prior to her accident. And so we started patching her. She was using very consistently the Aeon and the X39, and then more or less consistently the Elevata, probably not 7 days a week, but maybe 4 days a week, mostly the 4 days that I would remember, to do it at night. And she was struggling in school. She, like I said, about 60%, and she was struggling to sleep. She, in 2 months, well,
okay,
really,
the same thing.
Yeah, really about her first night on the patches, she slept through the night, which was a nice gift to me, because then she slept through the night, I got to sleep through the night. In 2 months, she went from, like I said, barely getting 60% to she ended up getting 95% or better on all 4 of her core subjects for her final grades. So we had a dramatic improvement. She was more noise tolerant. She had less headaches. We still have a little bit of struggles with headaches and not really noise sensitivity so much, but maybe just the feeling of being a little overwhelmed. And again, I'm going to say it's a lesson that I learned the hard way is in being consistent, is because I let her kind of take the summer off. She was doing so well, and so I didn't patch over the summer. And we just went back to school, and I was like, we need to start the patches again. So we just started the patches again when she went back to school here about 3 weeks ago, and I can already tell a difference. So it's been a bit of a miracle for our family. And just like Dina said, when you get your miracle, you won't be able to help yourself from sharing with others. And one, that's why I'm here today. And two, it has just transformed my life. I've always been a patient advocate and been very, I take very personally the care of my friends and my family and my patients. And this product has just been a blessing to everyone I know. I've had just the most amazing results with my friends and my family. It's just been wonderful. So I'm so thankful that we have these patches, and I really believe that this is the future of medicine. I think that we are kind of at the cusp of something magical here. I think it's wonderful. So, do you have any? Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
What did you have going on before the patches?
Hey, Stacy, I will tell you, I had a lot going on right before COVID hit. I was diagnosed with macular degeneration. I didn't really understand what was going on with my eyes, but I noticed my eyesight was getting worse and worse, and I kept thinking it was allergies. So I was taking allergy medicine and, just kept pushing through. And when I was diagnosed, they couldn't believe that I was even still driving. And I was diagnosed as legally blind. And so they started doing the retinologist. I started seeing a retinologist, and I started getting shots in both of my eyes, and about every 6 weeks, once a month. I think I started out with like once a month. That's how bad it was. And the closer they put the shots together is the worse your eyes are. And I didn't know anything about macular degeneration. I didn't know anything about, eye issues or anything like that. And I started taking let's see, when had that happened? That was 4 years ago. And right after COVID hit and they shut down the state, I couldn't get any shots, and I had a massive hemorrhage in my left eye. And my doctor told me I needed to pray. That's how bad it was. And I really couldn't see anything. I could make out, getting around and everything, but I couldn't see to live and enjoy life. And I'm a gardener and a photographer, so it was very detrimental for me, and it just very depressing. And sometimes I would sit there and go, "Oh God, I need an answer." And a friend of mine introduced me to the patches. She kept telling me about them, so I highly recommend anybody, if somebody's ignoring you, just stay consistent and persistent in sharing the good news of these patches. And so I decided I'm going to try anything, because I had tried different nutrition. I had tried different stem cell drops, supplements. I'm very into health and nutrition, and I'd always, tried to eat healthy and exercise and take care of myself. But nothing was changing anything. So when I decided to try the patches, which was a year ago, within a month, I started noticing that I think there's something to this. So I decided I was gonna give it a go. And I did the X39 and the Eon for a couple of months. And as I watched the patching podcast, I started learning more about the different patches and what they did. And I decided I needed the carnosine and the glutathione as well. And so I added those two to my regime, and I have noticed a huge difference. Within, I would say 6 months or so, I could start seeing the horizon, whereas before I couldn't even hardly see the beach, driving down the beach, and I could see the horizon. And then a couple of months later, I could see the ships on the horizon. I mean, I would be so excited. We take our eyesight so for granted, and we just don't realize how valuable of a gift it is. And I'm still in my recovery of the macular, but I can see your face with my glasses. I decided I would try my glasses, because normally I used this magnifying glass, which was everybody knows me for my magnifying glass. But I can see to push the little button for the microphone, which is huge. I haven't been able to wear reading glasses in at least 4 years. So I'm very excited about the patches. I would highly recommend anybody that's got any kind of eye issues, definitely.
Yes. And now I know a lot of people are going to have a question, and I don't know enough about macular degeneration but I know that some people say there's dry eye, there's wet. Which type do you have? just so it can be clear for people that might be asking this question.
Sure. It's wet. And from what I understand, that's the worst. I have friends that have dry and they're still driving, they're still managing, to live fine with their life. With the wet, and I don't understand the difference between the two or anything. I haven't really delved into doing any research on any of that. Looking at the computer and things, I with my eyes, I can't really do that. But, I listen to a lot of stuff like the podcasts and things like that. But, yeah.
Now, and I remember a few weeks ago or so that you were cooking, and you had said that the spice jar, you were able to read the back of the spice jar, and that was huge.
That was huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, it's not that you haven't been health and wellness, because you've been a health and nutrition ministry for over 30 years. So you already were in the process of good health and nutrition.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.